I'm Nate Gilmore, host and producer of the Holiness Today podcast.
And I'm Stan Reeder, Regional Director of the Church Nazarene in USA and Canada.
And we're having a conversation with
Andy Albright, serving as the Wisconsin District Superintendent. And I love to go to malls.
I do too as well. Do you have a good mall there in Madison? You got two malls. I think you got Easttown and is it Westtown or
Yeah,
is it
we
East
have
and West?
two. Yeah, the West Town is a little bit nicer, and it's 30 minutes away. So sometimes I have to drive over there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But
a nice mall.
yeah, I've enjoyed malls probably from my childhood. They're a dying breed. There's
No, I
only
know.
time before they won't exist any longer.
I know. We were in Cincinnati over the weekend, and they have a really nice mall north of Cincinnati in a suburb. I can't remember which, close to Westchester, but just a really nice mall. And I thought, I hope this survives. I hope it survives. Yeah, yes, it is. It is Kenwood. Yep, really nice. Still, you know, I'm impressed. It's a nice mall. Have you been to Mall of America? You've been
Yes,
up to
a couple times.
a good
One day
mall
I
as well.
spent 8 hours there. It's like
Yeah.
I was putting in a work shift.
Do they still have a theme park in it? When I was a kid, when we went, they had like a mini theme park inside
They do, and
with a
it's
ride.
not many anymore. It's quite large.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's great.
So what do you do when you go to a mall?
I enjoy the foods that are there, and just I don't usually buy anything. I just like to see what's in the stores. You know, a Mall of America, they have started, I would say, having stores that predominantly started out as online companies. And they're one of the places that, if you like things that you've purchased online that have become mainstream enough, they now have stores where you can just go in and check out the products that maybe you've only purchased online, like true classic t-shirts that have become pretty popular with guys. My favorite
Wearing one right now, actually, Andy. So
true classic. Yeah, so
I
they
got a
started
true
out
classic.
online and they have a store there so you can go in and actually check out the
Yeah.
merchandise. My favorite shoes are Kizik shoes. They're made so that the back of them have a spring and you can just slip into them without having to tie the laces. So I've got an old lower back injury from when I played high school basketball that creeps up on me every once in a while. So it's nice to be able to have shoes you can just slip into.
Nice.
And they have a Kizik store there, so it's nice to be able to go actually try on all the different shoes.
Tell us about the glory days of the high school basketball, just for a minute.
Oh boy. Yeah, I went to a Christian school in Denver, Colorado, and yeah, starting out my sophomore year, we got a new coach, and he started out the season telling us we would make the state tournament that year, which in Colorado, at the class of school I was in the 1A class, which meant we were part of the smallest schools in Colorado in terms of enrollment. He said at the end of the year in March, at the end of the season, we'll be in the state tournament. We didn't know there was a state tournament because the previous year we'd only won 2 games. But sure enough, he gave us that vision and we ended up making it to the state tournament our sophomore year. Finished last. We lost all our games, finished eighth. Junior year, the next year, we lost our first game, which put us in the consolation bracket, but we won the consolation bracket and finished fifth out of eight. And then senior year, we didn't lose and won the championship.
Mhm. Didn't you have a guy on your team that ended up playing pro?
He played pro in Taiwan, but
Oh,
also played Division I basketball for a couple of years. He was Mr. Colorado basketball for the 1A class.
yeah.
Yeah, 6'7" point guard. Played at St. Mary's in California and also for Colorado State University. He was the reason, when I say I'm, state champion, I was I was the sixth man on the team. So first off the bench, or if one of the starters got into some disciplinary issues, I got to start that game.
Mhm.
Sometimes rooting for him to make bad choices in the classroom. I'd get to start. No.
It's like when you're at a conference and you hope the speaker before you bombs, so
Yeah.
you can If they really hit it out of the park, it's terrible. It's the worst thing that can happen if you're up next. See if I can get a
Oh
base hit
man.
here. So, and then it seems like there's a story in that you're the only person in Colorado history to win a championship as a player and then as a coach as well.
Oh, I don't know if that's true.
Oh, we're just saying it is.
We've declared it to be so.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know another one.
I don't know. I know a few, but yeah, I went to college in Denver to get a teaching degree, and my coach that coached me in high school, went on to coach at another school and called me up and asked me to be one of his assistants a couple years after I graduated high school and got to be a part of another championship team as a coach. So yeah, it's just basketball. It's a great game to play and coach, but you learn so much about life lessons, especially if you have a good coach. They're so good at taking the game and combining it with character and how you try to tackle different challenges. So they make it so much more about than the game, which is always a beautiful thing.
So, one last question about basketball. Was it more rewarding winning it as a player or as a coach?
I would say coach, because as a player, you're just kind of thinking about yourself and trying to make sure you're doing what you need to do. And as a coach, yeah, I would definitely say it's more rewarding as a coach because you get to see the dynamics of the team from more of a bird's eye view, and you get to help the players to get beyond themselves, to see it more from a team perspective. So to see how players start a season and how they end it, it's so much more about leadership, at least from when I was playing. I was just trying to, do everything I could to help the team individually, but as a coach, you're really trying to help everybody work together for the good of the unit. And I wish I would have had that maturity and outlook as a player. But boy, it's enjoyable as a coach to see everybody using their specific gifts working in harmony to accomplish the goal.
That sounds like a lot like a district superintendent.
It can be.
Did you grow up in Denver then? Is that your where you're born and raised?
Yes. Well, I was born in Cincinnati, lived there for 13
Ah,
years,
you know
which
the
is how I
Kenwood
know
Mall.
Kenwood Mall. And
I just thought you had a photographic memory of every mall in America. That's what I was thinking. You could have left that there.
yeah, yeah, I was born in Cincinnati, lived there till I was 13 with a brief stint in Madison, Wisconsin.
Ah,
Uh, yeah, my dad worked for an aluminum can company, and he was transferred to DeForest, right outside of Madison, when I was 9. So we lived there for 9 months, and then moved back to Cincinnati. So lived there for 13 years in Ohio, and then moved to Colorado when I was 13, and spent 20 years in Colorado. So that's the longest tenure I have in a
place you've been. Yeah.
so that's what
So
we really consider home is
I was
Colorado.
just going to ask, is that where Denver, not Ohio then, not Ohio's not the
I still love the weird foods in Ohio. Still have a lot of family
Skyline Chili. I
in
had Skyline
Ohio.
Chili for the first time as well,
Did you
passing through.
survive
So
it?
yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting experience. I kind of enjoyed it. And I said to my wife, I said, this looks like something I'd warm up the next day after I made spaghetti, but I'd eat
It
it,
did. It actually was. It
know.
actually was warmed up from the day before.
That's what it was. Oh man,
I
my
love Skyline chili, but my
yeah,
wife has tried it. My kids have tried it. I think you have to grow up with it to really
yeah,
enjoy
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. So how did you get to Westminster? Were you attending Westminster? How did you guys come in contact with each other? What's the scoop and story on that?
Yeah, well, I when we moved to Colorado from Cincinnati, our pastor at the Nazarene church we were attending in Ohio recommended to my parents that we go to Westminster because it was Pastor Hurl's. He said, I went to seminary with Dave Ralph, who was the pastor at Westminster. And it was about a 30-minute drive for us from our house in Thornton, Colorado to Westminster. But we started there in 1993 and attended there for quite some time, off and on a little bit. And after I graduated from college, got my teaching degree, was looking at where I would have my church home be as a young adult. And a fellow teacher of mine, actually my old high school basketball coach, said, you gotta come back to Westminster. There's this great pastor there. He said he preaches 30 minutes every week, and he's got these notes, and he's always telling jokes, and it's just one of the best pastors I've ever heard. And I was like, well, that's the church I grew up in. Yeah, I need to go back there. And so made that transition, 2002, 2003 to go back there. And I think Dr. Reeder started there in 2001.
It's 2001, yeah.
Yeah.
So just started attending the church then as a teacher. So kind of going back to the church. Yeah.
And then,
So
well, sorry, I might be jumping ahead, but at what point, Dr. Reeder, you can jump in and fill in gaps, but at what point did you start helping out with youth? How did that work? Obviously, teaching, you got sensing a call, but if you don't mind sharing a mini call story, if you can.
yeah, I can share that. I'd even like to hear Dr. Reeder's perspective because I've always thought about it from my perspective. But yeah, I think God had been calling me for a long time. I can even recall when I was a little kid and be playing with family, cousins, while our parents were off having coffee and pie in the kitchen. We play hide and go seek, and then as a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, I would be, well, let's sit here in the living room and have church. And my cousin would sit on the couch, and I'd pull out this massive hardbound parallel Bible with all the different translations, and we'd sing a couple songs, and I'd do a little mini message as a child from the big Bible, and my cousin would just sit there and listen, which is surprising to me. But I look back on that, wow, God was calling me even then, but you kind of run from that and have, questions about it. And after I was married, my beautiful wife Sarah, I just after teaching for a year, junior high English, 150 junior high students, I just kept feeling this pull from the Lord to become a pastor. So I thought I need to talk to my lead pastor about this. He had officiated our wedding just a few months before and asked him if I could come in and talk to him. And he agreed to that meeting. And I went into his office and just said, I don't know what this looks like, don't know what all this means, but I just feel like for a while God's been calling me to pursue ministry, to pursue becoming a pastor, and I don't know what that means for a position here at the church or anything, but I just want to share that with you and see what the next steps would be. And I don't know if Dr. Reeder wants to talk about how he responded to that.
Well, just a little bit of backdrop to it, and we were planning a church at the time, and the pastor was the previous youth pastor in the church, a great guy, um, and he was planning a church. It was about 10 miles. It was on the same road, but it was about 10 miles down the road, and we're excited about that. So he was working the church on purpose. That was the plan, to get as many people as he could to go with him on the church plant. And I tell you what, it just felt like everybody was going on the church plant, We're
You're
like up
losing
to,
them all.
I was just losing all of them, all the young, and especially the younger adults that were up for an adventure and wanted
Did you
something
get the
new.
feeling that they were looking to go?
Well, it started
They
to feel that
released the
way.
barn door.
Started to feel that way. There's no question about it. They're escaping the
Yeah,
clutches of the old guy and going with this
yeah, yeah.
great new thing. So Andy, I think we're at a wedding or something, Andy, and you and Sarah were there, and you said, "Oh, I'd like to talk to you about something in your office this week." And I thought, oh shoot, there goes another one, you know. So
Losing
I
another.
was happy. I was happy, you know, that all these people were going on this church plant, but at the same time, it was getting a little bit much for me. And so it was the best news I'd ever heard in my life when we're sitting in the office, and you said, I feel like I have a call to preach, and I feel like, you know, is there anything I could do here in the church? I said, yes, there is. I've got a job for you.
We're losing so many. Where do you want to start?
Exactly. So I offered him the junior high part-time, you know, junior high youth pastor job right on the spot. I mean, immediately. So it was great news, best news I ever got. That no, Andy and Sarah weren't leaving the church. They were to plant the church. They were actually going to be a part of the team. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a journey after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jumping into it, did you feel pretty equipped at the time, or did you feel the equipping was coming? How did you feel starting out?
Oh, definitely ill-equipped. Very insecure, imposter syndrome, all those feelings. But I quickly learned, it was just such a life transforming time for me through that season. Because I'd say just a couple of years before that was when I had my, entire sanctification experience, around that 21 years of age. And now I'm at 23. So just continuing to understand the infilling of the Holy Spirit, the empowering, the equipping. So yes, I definitely felt like, the tasks in front of me were things that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish, but God kept reminding me and helping me to understand that it wasn't going to be about me doing all these things and seeing great victories due to my own abilities or strength, but it was going to be about what God had done, was doing currently, and what God would do. And that's just kind of been the whole ministry journey.
so what did you learn as a youth pastor that has been a good lesson for you through the rest of your ministry?
I would say what I learned that's been a great lesson that I still see today that I'll talk a little bit more about later as we talk about the Wisconsin district is how important building healthy relationships and discipleship is for ministry health and ministry growth. In youth ministry, we were blessed with a great budget, we were blessed with great facilities, but a lot of our growth, of course, came through what God was doing in the hearts and lives of people. But a lot of it came down to the relationships God was enabling me to build with students, but even more importantly, that I saw students building with each other and our adult volunteers building with students. Even at that time, culture was starting to shift where Wednesdays were no longer sacred. We can probably all remember a time when schools would not schedule things on Wednesday night. There was a time even when public schools wouldn't, because if they did, kids just wouldn't participate because they were in youth group. But there was definitely a season where even Christian schools didn't schedule things on Wednesday nights for youth group. But that was even starting to change. The Christian schools in the area were starting to schedule their football games or basketball games, volleyball games on Wednesday nights. So that made attendance and consistency and all of that challenging. But when you had students that wanted to be at youth group because they wanted to connect with those adult volunteers, they wanted to spend that time with their friends and pray for each other and encourage each other and study the word together. They wanted that community that helped kind of combat some of those real strong scheduling conflicts and some of the things that were pulling them towards other things. It sounds old school, but we had we had adult volunteers that when students were gone for a week or two, they would call the students and not guilt them or shame them for not being there, just check on them. And almost every time you'd send a postcard to a student or you'd call them, let them know you care about them, you missed them, they'd be back and they'd keep coming. So it was nice having great facilities, and it was wonderful being blessed with great budget for doing youth ministry. But I think one of the things that helped us the most was just relational connections and really truly caring for the students, for their families. And I've seen that throughout ministry.
It seems like the youth pastors we've interviewed that have gone on to other roles on the podcast, and it sounds like you're saying this as well, have a more of a holistic approach to ministry that they're bringing into, I guess you could say, adult ministry or their DS role. What does that look like in your capacity now, checking in? As a pastor's son, I know that sometimes when the pastor would go calling, maybe people wouldn't want him going calling. But what does that look like for you as a DS, checking in with people and saying, "Hey, we missed you," without the, are you still wrestling with not bringing the guilt? Where were you, kind of thing? Or what does that look like for you in your role now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, it's a little bit, I won't say easier, but we have 30 churches on our district. So I just try to keep consistent connection with our pastors, less in a way of, coming at pastors like, well, you're a little, slow on paying your budgets this month,
Yeah.
not coming at it from, these are the ways that I don't see you measuring up to our values or any of that. It's just more of trying to stay connected through support, love, concern, care, continuing to be a listener, asking people how they're doing. A good, wonderful colleague of mine, Lloyd Brock, in Northern Illinois. I heard him about a year ago talking about how every year he goes and has intentional sit-down meetings with his pastors to cast some vision from the district, but also just to see how they're doing, to ask them about how their families are and how their personal lives are, how their ministry is going, and just giving them a chance to share. So I did that this last year, just went and tried to have a meal or a coffee with pastors and just give them a chance to open up about life. And then through that you can have an opportunity to talk about the vision for the district and how you want everyone to work together to accomplish the goals for the kingdom of God. But I think you have an opportunity to continue those relationships and model a relational style of leadership.
Makes me want to take a church on Wisconsin district. Keep me in mind.
Oh,
You're
I am.
available soon, huh?
But please don't screen my calls after May 1st.
So I was looking at the statistics from all the districts this past they just came out from the year before the previous years. All the reports are in and all that, and I was amazed when I saw your report come in on its own that you'd seen close to 20% growth in morning worship attendance this year. And last year we saw a lot of growth. And in fact, every area of that we measure, Wisconsin is kind of like just knocked it out of the park. And you're the fastest growing district of any district in USA, Canada. Uh, Help me understand what's happening there. What's the Lord doing?
Yeah, yeah, I've explored that some, and I think in the research I did, I was able to see how, 17 out of our 30 churches either stayed the same or grew over the last year. So that's one of the things that's happening there. We've seen some churches that have grown significantly over the last year. So I've been talking to some of those pastors and trying to just get a grasp of what God is doing so that we can communicate that clearly. And of course, first of all, praise the Lord, because whenever we see fruit like that, we remember it's because of God and it's through God working in us and through us. And as I've been through all of our churches numerous times now, having been here a little over 2 years, I'm constantly reminded that, of course, we serve and worship and follow a great God. But God has blessed us on the Wisconsin district with, if you go to our churches, you just encounter loving, kind, faithful, generous, caring people. wonderful lay leaders throughout our churches. And God is also providing us with phenomenal pastoral leaders that care consistently for not only their church family, but their community. We're seeing the cycle of resurgence happening boldly through, I think, the majority of our churches. And as I talk to our pastors that are seeing some of this growth, asking them what they feel like is happening. One pastor, Pastor AJ Strutz in Baraboo, talked about, and he's only been there for a little over a year. He came from the Washington Pacific District. He was a youth pastor there. He talked about how once he arrived, how he made prayer such a prominent focus of his ministry. And they've grown well since he's been there. And what he's seeing is their time in prayer and having the right posture in prayer, having the right focus in prayer has helped his people to live into the gifts and graces God has given to them and to go out into their community and build those relationships, build those connections, and to love God with all that they are and to love their neighbor. And Pastor AJ is a very relational person, so he's building lots of relationships in Baraboo, and they're seeing many new people come to the church. And because as people come into our churches, especially this Baraboo church, they're connecting with very loving, caring people that don't just know the word, but they're living out the word. So that back door is barely cracked at all. So people aren't exiting, they're staying. And then people in the church are starting to see that, and that just builds the excitement and that holy momentum. So as I talk to Pastor AJ about how they're growing, he really feels like their focus, their intentionality, their efforts in prayer has really helped them. We have a church down in Janesville, which is the southern part of Wisconsin. We have Pastor Vicky McIntyre there, and they've seen some great growth in Janesville, Randolph Park. And what they've been doing is, again, this is going to come back to relationships. Pastor Vicky over decades now has she worked in a grocery store, one of our largest grocery store brands in Wisconsin, Woodman's. She's worked for them for years. She's not working for them anymore, but due to her relationships with people, they provide so much food to her, and they have 75 to 100 people coming into the church every week to receive food, but they're happily sitting through a service before they receive the food. So every week between 75 and 100 people are hearing the gospel, hearing the word of God, hearing our biblical teachings, and they're growing and they're coming back for groups and connections, and phenomenal things are happening in this Janesville church. I was there on a Tuesday, and she had half a dozen men from the halfway house there, and they're working on the building, and they have to do some hours. They have to learn different job skills. But as they're working on the building, the church building, I'm just walking around while Pastor Vicky's helping with getting ready for the food distribution. And I think they're looking at it from a corporate mindset because they know I'm the district superintendent. She's introduced me to them. But they're telling me about how they have a job interview coming up this Thursday, and Pastor Vicky made sure they had a suit or certain clothes, whatever they need to be prepared for their reentry into the job market, she takes care of. She is blessing her community. They had a tornado that went through Janesville, and the local government wrote up a big article on what the Janesville Randolph Park Church had done to bless their community. So again, that's part of the cycle of resurgence, which I know is our focus last year. But that of course can always continue. And that's one of the ways Janesville Randolph Park is growing significantly is by not just blessing their community, but sharing the gospel, preaching the word, not just sharing the words of the Bible, but truly embodying it and living it out. on a weekly basis.
You better hope there aren't DSs listening to this podcast with you sharing the names of pastors on your district.
They'll poach
Nate,
them.
can you edit some of that out?
Yeah, I will. I'll
Those,
take the names.
those are fake names.
Those are
They're
fake.
not the names of the real names
Names
of
and
the
locations
pastors.
are not the real names and locations.
Baraboo, where's Baraboo? I mean, that can't be a real place.
Yeah, it can't
Right.
be. It can't be.
Is Baraboo right up on northwestern Lloyd Brock's district? Does it butt up against it on the border there? Is Baraboo a border town? I'm trying to remember now where it's at.
No, Baraboo's right next to the Wisconsin Dells,
Oh,
which
it's north. It's
yeah,
north. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Wisconsin Dells is they say it's the water park capital of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
There's many hotels with water parks inside of them. There's many outdoor rides and water parks, so it's quite a place.
Is it
I,
better than Waterworld? Which one do you rate higher? Is it Noah's Ark up there or Waterworld?
there's a major conflict of interest there. I worked
He
at
worked at
Waterworld for
Waterworld
7
for
years.
years.
7 years I was
As a
employed there.
Thornton alum, you got to defend Waterworld, right?
Yeah, that was my first job at 15 years old.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
I liked Waterworld better, but I might get in trouble with some Wisconsinites saying that. So my
yeah,
wife's from Wisconsin. She may disagree with me on that one, but
yeah. And we've got a couple other churches that are just, in Racine, we have two churches. Racine, Taylor Avenue. I won't share the pastor that's there as I'm learning here. I've been a DS for a couple of
We're trying
years.
to
I,
help
I
you out
think
here,
we're all on
brother.
the same team. We're all for
yeah,
the kingdom of
yeah,
God, but give me a few more years and I'll learn the ropes
you'll
of
know those tricks, huh?
yeah,
What are
Racine.
you excited for in the years to come? You've named some projects going on, but you got things in the works you're seeing on Wisconsin that might 5 years from now you look back and say, this happened or things you're projecting outward.
Yeah. Last year I shared that we wanna plant 5 churches in 5 years, but of course I feel like as you continue listening to God, we're hoping to do more than that. We've got a few in the works right now. I've been talking to Pastor Selena Freeman about some of what we're wanting to do, what we feel like God's leading us to do. We currently do not have a church in Milwaukee. We only have one church in Madison, only one in Green Bay. So some of our bigger metro areas, we need more Nazarene churches. So we've got an individual that's wanting to start a new church in the western part of Madison. We've got one that's being considered in southern Wisconsin, and we've got a person that's praying about a Milwaukee spot. So God is definitely working, but we know there's a lot more work to do. And we're wanting to continue seeing our established churches grow and thrive and flourish. So we've done a couple things to try to help with that. One thing we've done is when I came here, our district percentage that churches were giving was 9% to the district when I came in 2023. And after a couple of years, we've been able to lower that to 5.5%. So we're really excited about that because that just helps our local churches to have more resources for their ministry. And this year we've also initiated a missional grant program. And we just had a meeting this last Saturday where churches came with 7 different proposals for missional grants. And that was incredibly encouraging. So our goal with that is we know that sometimes churches have dreams, they have hopes that the Lord has instilled in them for their local church, for their community. But sometimes financial resources are a stumbling block to accomplish those things. So as a district, we want to use some of the resources God has blessed us with to bless our churches so that they can do the things that God is putting on their hearts to do. So we're hoping that through our investment revenues and things like that, God will continue to help us as a district to help our churches to do all that God is calling them to.
So your ministry as a lead pastor, if I'm remembering correctly, started in La Junta, which is almost a prairie town in Colorado, but certain out in the plains. And then you were in Newport, Oregon, which is a coastal fishing town. It's really a fishing village, it really is what it is, but a commercial fishing place. And then you're in Twin Falls, Idaho, which is, kind of a rugged agricultural, you know, not far from beautiful mountains. Three really different locations. And I noted to you not long ago that you invited me to speak at each one of those one time. I know you would have had me back, but the people just said, don't bring you back again. But what was it about, those three places, your lead pastor experience, three different, very different churches, couldn't be more different. Um, what did you learn from those that have influenced your ministry today?
Yeah, I would say in the first church that I was in, La Junta, what I learned there is some of what we're seeing work really well here in Wisconsin is the more you can get outside of your church and connect with people in the community, the better off you're going to be. In La Junta, that church was full of loving people, and there I was able to build a relationship with the local funeral home director that was the prominent funeral home director in the community. And he came to me a couple times asking if I would be available for families that didn't have a pastor but wanted to have a service in a church for their loved one that had passed away. And I'd go and spend a couple hours with the family, getting to know them, getting to know their loved one, so I could prepare for the service. And that became such a blessed ministry that in the 3 years I was there, I probably did 30, 35 services. But in that, we gained 8, 9, 10 families because these families didn't have a church, they didn't have a pastor. And just through spending that relational time with their families, that really helped. And then as they came to the church, it was no longer about the relationship I had with them. It was then the relationship that they built with the members of the church. But those connections wouldn't have happened if I didn't, go out into the community and make those relationships, those connections. In Newport, it was definitely different. There, I feel that that town was, La Junta was 7,000 people. Newport was 10,000 during most of the year. During the summer, when tourists would come in, it would jump up to 30, 40,000. There, it was a little bit harder ground. Still great people in the church. Beautiful place to live. A major tourist location in itself. But there is some really, there's one particular really large church in that town, and it was about trying to figure out not to try to be like the other large church in the town, but to really figure out what is God created us to be in this community. What are the things we have with our leadership, with our volunteers, with how God has put us together as a church? And the Lord helped us to see we were a great church and had great opportunity for family ministry in ways that some of the other churches weren't fully equipped to meet at that time. One thing that the Lord put on my heart there was we were one of the only churches that had a gymnasium space in the community. And in Newport, Oregon, they have a lot of rain, a lot of rain. A lot of Oregon does, but we went and purchased some inflatable bounce houses. We'd rented them for some different events and thought, boy, this is great. But we purchased some and we could put them up in our gym and we try to create a space where families could come in when the weather was pretty extreme and just have a safe indoor place for kids to play. And we also started a Saturday night service there and a meal for homeless people. Newport had a very large homeless population. And we started seeing many homeless people come through that meal and that Saturday night service and became a major outreach ministry for us. So the Lord blessed us with some good growth there. And then in Twin Falls, that was definitely the largest church I was ever blessed to pastor. But I started in 2020 there. For the first month and a half I was there, I preached to the cell phone, like many of us did during that time. I started in, I think, March, April in 2020 in Twin Falls, Idaho. So there it was just about continuing the legacy and healthy ministry that had come before me. I followed Dave Morey, who's an excellent pastor. The Lord called him out of there to be the DS in Northwest District, and before him was
Rick Hester.
Barry Kester, yeah, who went to Washington Pacific. Of
Hmm.
course, he's gone on to be with the Lord, but there was just a phenomenal history, and there still is, of ministry there. So there was just about continuing to love people, continuing to serve, and try to be a blessing to that body. They already had Upward Sports going. They'd have 700 families come through, or 700 people come through on a weekend for that, and Upward is such a powerful ministry, and just continuing to love and serve people. Yeah, so I'd say relationships, and that's what we're seeing in many of our churches that are growing with the churches in Racine that are serving their communities and loving people, and we've got a pastor, I won't say his name, up in Mattoon, Anago in Wisconsin, that he came into the church over a year ago and continued to do the same things, just loving his community. He started a Sunday night outreach service that's reaching young people. His church was more older in their congregation, demographics, but he started this Sunday night contemporary service that's really helping their church grow. And sometimes you might not be ready to start a new work somewhere else, but you can start a new service. You can start a new work, even with your current facilities and ministries. And the Lord uses that to reach people that currently aren't being reached. And I love how I'm seeing that on the Wisconsin district, and it's bearing some great fruit.
Any question that you were kind of hoping we might ask that you got an answer for, or a response or insight that we didn't ask that you thought, I wish I had a chance to share this?
Nothing's
Could
coming
be
to
anything.
mind. Could
Could
be
be
anything.
anything.
Hmm.
What would you tell a new what would you tell a new district superintendent? You've been doing it for 2 years now, so you've got a cycle or two under your belt. Somebody was just starting in the role, just say to them that would help them either adjust to the ministry, usually from a lead pastorate, or find an early successor to, or help pastors. What might you say that you think would be helpful to them?
Yeah, I think I would just share with them the importance of loving and praying and investing in your pastors. That's so important because any ministry role can be isolating. Whatever role you're in, if you allow it to be, it can be very isolating. But we have opportunities to just love, listen, and learn all the time. Sometimes we do that when we first start a new role. But I've been thinking a lot lately about how that shouldn't just be when we start something. There's always value in loving people, listening to them, and learning what God wants us to learn through our relationships. And we know we can get busy with all of the tasks that we have. There's a lot of administrative tasks that come with really any ministry role, but especially the DS role. But we can be intentional about remaining in relationships with people. I know it can be tempting to not want to form relationships with people because sometimes in the DS role, you do have to tackle difficult things with people. You have to hold people accountable. You have to deal with challenges at times with individuals. But I think even in being in relationships with people, even those challenges, those accountability times, it can be easier to navigate those things when you have a relationship with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. It occurs to me when you're talking, that's, that we as pastors, many of us do a pretty good job initially of, I think you use the word loving, listening, and learning. And initially, but it's easy to kind of settle back and figure I've done that already. And that's probably why there's something called a honeymoon, because, that's when pastors are really exercising those important things in the relationship. And then maybe we do a little less of it as time goes on in the honeymoon. And the money honeymoon kind of comes to an end. I think that's a good way of keeping a perpetual strong relationships, is just doing those three things. And never feel like we've learned it, never feel like people finally feel loved. It's a dynamic feeling that has to be continually developed. So thanks for sharing that.
I would say that I've loved every role God has blessed me to serve in as a youth pastor, as a lead pastor. But it hit me the other day. I was able to install a new pastor in Kenosha, a great female pastor, Pastor Melissa Dugan. And after the grant time we had on Saturday, yesterday I think it hit me just how I feel like I'm in the sweetest spot of ministry in my life as a district superintendent, and I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
I thought, you hear so many people talk about, and there are challenges, there are difficulties, there are very stressful moments. But I just feel like the vision God's placed in my heart for our district, what he wants to accomplish in Wisconsin, what he is accomplishing in Wisconsin, the fact that I'm getting to be a part of it,
Yeah.
it just really enriches and nourishes my soul.
That's good. Good. That's good, brother. I love being a district superintendent too, and I always felt a little warped because of that. But I did. I enjoyed the role, and my mother was always very proud of me as a pastor. Oh, very proud of me that as a pastor. And when I became a district superintendent, she was quite disappointed. And she asked me, and she was serious. Do you think you'll ever go back into the ministry? Do you think you'll ever go
You weren't
back into the
you
ministry?
weren't in the ministry as a
I
district
was in the
superintendent.
I'd left the ministry.
That's funny.
And she felt that way till the day she died.
Oh man.
So
You were an administrator, right?
there you
Yeah.
go. That's
The
what it
ad.
was. Yeah. Yeah. I administrate other people. That's what you do as
Yes,
a
exactly.
PS. Yeah.
Administrator.
So,
Andy, this isn't a question, but more of just an observation. Two observations. Not a lot of malls, looks like, where you served in your pastorate. Definitely not in La Junta, but in all of the churches, it seems like the church was the large community social force in each town. I mean,
Mhm.
definitely La Junta. Looks like
Yeah.
Newport and Twin Falls. Those were huge, impactful, and it seems like you're bringing that background into Wisconsin, where these churches are heavily involved in the community. But again, not a question, more of a compliment and observation. But that's a pretty neat track record. Very different towns, but if there's a common thread, it looks like they're the central force of that town. Looks like. At least I remember La Junta. I've been there a couple times. That church was a very important church for that town.
Yeah. Yeah. And that church again has been blessed with great pastors. And it is helpful when your church is the only place that has a gym. We
Hmm.
used to do a lot of back in the day with sports VBS. I don't know if anyone remembers that. You'd buy a box and it would come with all this sports stuff that you could do with Vacation Bible School. And we started doing that and just you'd get lots of families and then you just love on them and they'd come and find Jesus and grow in discipleship. And it's just about, we all know the days of just having worship every Sunday morning and hoping and expecting people to come. Those days have faded away, and it might have been that way for a long time. We've got to, with the help of the Holy Spirit, go out into our communities and bring Jesus to people.
Yeah. What food have you discovered in Wisconsin that is not Skyline Chili level, but maybe it's like why do Wisconsin people do this? You've been there 2 years. Have you discovered any weird thing? Obviously, Culver's is a staple, but anything that you think is a strange thing that the Wisconsinites do that maybe you've adapted to.
Oh, I don't know if it's a strange thing, but cheese curds,
Yeah,
every place has different
wonderful.
kinds of
Yeah,
cheese curds. They'll
yeah,
have the flights of cheese curds, you can get
yeah.
all different kinds. There's lots of cheese castles in Wisconsin. You can
Ah,
go and just find all different kinds of cheese. Of course, there's lots of ice cream parlors, everything dairy.
yeah, yeah.
I've had to
Good
start
brats and
walking again.
sausage too, right?
Oh
If I
yeah, they have
remember
a
correctly.
brat fest. You can go to a big convention center and enjoy all the different kinds of brats.
Yeah, yeah. Is that Wisconsin town? I'm trying to remember if Johnsonville's a Wisconsin.
I haven't
location, but
encountered that one yet. I haven't researched that.
Johnsonville Church of the Nazarene,
Boy,
Well,
that'd
that
be a
sounds
New
great
Start Church. There you go.
sounds delicious. I I just came back from Oklahoma, and I was in several restaurants, and it seemed like Brussels sprouts was a thing. There was a lot
Ah,
of Brussels sprouts,
down in Oklahoma.
and I'll take cheese curds over Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Hey,
I avoid any kind of vegetable. So
Yeah,
unless
yeah,
it's fried and I can dip it in
yeah.
ranch.
There you
so
go.
yeah,
Well, Andy,
that's
what can our listeners be praying about? I like to plug that at the end, unless you got another question you want itching Dr. Reeder to get out. But I want to make
that's
sure our
great.
listeners can be praying for you in your endeavors. So
Yeah, I would just say, we're wanting to start these churches and, continue to pray that God will bring us church planters and that the Lord will put on hearts of men or women that are called to start new works. We've got some great, beautiful metro areas that need churches, people that need Jesus, that need our holiness, Wesleyan, Arminian message, and they need Nazarene churches in these places. But we're trying to build up our farm team. Again, we're blessed with great church family, lay people, pastors, but we need other people to come and join our mission here, the mission of God here. So I'm just praying that God will instill in hearts that call and that passion. And I'm sure there's some Green Bay Packer fans out there, or some Milwaukee Brewer or Milwaukee Bucks fans. It's a great place to do life and ministry. I had no
yeah,
idea before I came here. Again, I lived here when I was 9 for 9 months, but had no idea how beautiful Wisconsin is.
yeah,
Wisconsin
yeah.
is a beautiful state. So much fishing, great places to hike. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. So just looking for people to come and
Come on
enjoy
up.
what God is doing up here.
Door County's absolutely beautiful. You put a church up there on the tip of it. There you go.
Yeah.
You're talking like a DS now.
Yeah.
Unashamed plug. We just asked for a prayer request, and it's turned into a unashamed plug from a
A pitch
DS.
to bring them up. Yeah, there you
Come and
go.
live in
There you go.
Wisconsin.
Well, that's a prayer.
We'll
Wonderful
sure
place.
join you in prayer for those 5 churches that the
Yeah.
Lord would. That'd be great, and that the Lord will bring you great pastors along the way as well too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're thankful for your ministry, and we'll definitely be bringing that to the Lord. That would be pleasing to the Lord and a blessing to Wisconsin.
Yeah. And I just want to share, I know Dr. Reeder is going to be retiring soon. Don't know when this podcast will air, but I know May 1st is coming. And I'm just so thankful for Dr. Reeder's ministry, his the way God has worked through him through so many different places, locations, and now, of course, globally as he's served in this director role for a number of years now. Just so thankful for his heart, for how God's worked through you, Dr. Reeder, with the cycle of resurgence. Just so appreciate your ministry and your life.
Thank you, brother. Love you.
And
You too.
he'll get back into ministry eventually, right? Right,
I
Dr.
Yeah,
hope
Reed?
eventually
so.
I'm going to get back into ministry. When I
I'm praying
retire, I
for him.
am going back into the ministry.
There you go. There you go.
And maybe he might want to be one of our church planters in
There
Wisconsin.
you go.
Maybe it's
I
a
just looked it
cheese
up. There,
curds in Wisconsin sounding awful good.
Dr. Reeder, there is a Johnsonville. I don't know if it's the same one as the sausage company, but near Sheboygan. So you can start the Johnsonville church there.
Oh man, that would be awesome. I love Johnsonville.
Me too.
Double cheddar.
Right,
Better
right.
cheddar. So,
Amen. Well,
okay.
thank you for this time, both of you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
God bless. Thank you for listening to this special collaboration episode between Holiness Today and the USA Canada region. Look forward to more episodes like this in the near future.